right, well, welcome everyone. So glad you're here. So this is an excused day from student teaching.
I thought they were playing hooky.
We're so happy that you all can be here for this. So this is part of our John and Betty Michael Autobiographical lecture series in art education. It's been going on for quite a few decades. And it's to celebrate a significant person in our field of art education. So this is a very special opportunity. This is part of the endowment, is to have a special program just for advanced art education students. So we're so happy that you can be here. So we're going to have a discussion. Hopefully you came with some questions to ask Steve. And then we'll take a picture together. Probably right about 11:30. There's going to be some, your lunches are going to be delivered probably about 11:15, so you might see some people coming in and delivering lunches. All right. So I'm going to read Steve's bio, and then we'll jump in with questions, all right? So this is a discussion between you and him. All right. Stephen Carpenter II is the Michael J. and Amy Rosenko Keikos Dean of the College of Arts and Architecture and Professor of Art Education and African American Studies at the Pennsylvania State University. He is also co-director of the Summer Institute on Contemporary Art and chief executive artist for Reservoir Studio. During the 2017-2018 academic year, he was Ida Ellie Rubin Artist in Residence, MIT Center for Art, Science, and Technology, and Department of Urban Studies and Planning and Artist and Learner in Residence at Easterly Parkway Elementary School. Steve's research in art education spans curriculum theory, professional development for pre-K through 12 teachers through contemporary art, public pedagogy, participatory art practices, and socially engaged art practice, critical art education studies, and the global water crisis as curriculum and social action. His mixed media and performance artworks confront and disrupt social, historical, and cultural and political constructs. He is co-editor of Professional Development and Art Museums, Strategies of Engagement Through Contemporary Art, 2018, the Palgrave Handbook of Race and the Arts in Education, 2018, Curriculum for a Progressive, Provocative, Poetic, and Public Pedagogy, 2006, and co-author of Interdisciplinary Approaches to Teaching Art in High School, 2006. Steve was senior editor of Studies in Art Education, 2017 through 2019, and served previously as co-editor of the Journal of Curriculum and Pedagogy, 2010 to 2013, and editor of Art Education, 2004 to 2006. He's a member of the International Editorial Board of Curriculum Inquiry and a National Art Education NAEA Distinguished Fellow. So you can tell he's like quite impressive. And he's been someone that I've looked up to in the field since I started grad school way a long time ago. So he was my professor at Virginia Commonwealth University a really long time ago. And Dr. Meehan also, so how did you engage with Dr. Carpenter?
Yeah, Dr. Carpenter was my professor during my first semester at Penn State, during that sliver of time when he was still the chair of the art department before he elevated up to the deanship of the entire College of Arts and Architecture. But yeah, I forget what the name of the seminar was because it kind of shifted its name between like Graham Chapman's and it was like the Carpenter's Workshop. This was like open-ended discussion sessions with us and the MFA students that were, these like brief weekly discussions, open-ended, that were really formative and special.
But it made sense. That was a long intro. It was so long that my computer decided to and then it geeked out with definitions, so it's total, it's trying to be participatory. And thanks for that introduction. And every time you say, this lecture series brings in some person from the field who allegedly has done some things, and we need to pay attention to what they've been up to. It's a little weird for me to think that that's me you're talking about. 'Cause I've just been chugging along. I thought I was going to be an art teacher. Actually, I thought I was going to just make things and be an artist. But somehow teaching made sense along the way. It kept making sense. And I realized, you can go to school for that. So here I am. So it's this process, and you all are skipping school right now. Thank you for doing that. And you are preparing to be teachers. Actually, you're already teachers. You're just preparing to be officially hired as teachers. Is that fair? All right, well, listen, the floor is yours, except for the fact that I don't know who you are. You know who I am. Can we go around and you'll see some of my pedagogy come through. You talked about the class, the Carpenter's Workshop, which was essentially designed around that TV show Inside the Actors Studio. Have you ever seen that show? We have a professor of theater interviewing some famous actor from Hollywood. And so what we did, we just brought people in and we interviewed them as if they were famous Hollywood people. So I find a lot of pedagogical approaches from TV and pop culture. But also I think being a teacher means you gotta disrupt. It's about being an educator, it's about centering the learning and making sure people are paying attention. So we'll go around the room. Who wants to go third? Who wants to go third?
I'll go first.
All right, you're third. Who's gonna go sixth?
Sure, I'll go 6.
Okay, 6. I saw Handy. What number do you want?
I'll go first.
Okay,
Go
first,
Rochelle.
third,
Yeah.
6. Nice. We have first, third, 6. Choose one more that will be preloaded. Which other number do we need to?
4.
4. 1, 3. You're gonna be 4? 4 and 6. And then the rest of you fall in line somewhere. I don't know where it happens. All right. All right, 1, go.
I'm just introducing my name. I'm Rochelle Swan.
And where are you student teaching now?
I am at East Lakota High School. I'll be there for 8 weeks, and then I switch actually with Lacey, and I go to Endeavor Elementary School.
Great. All right. Good to have you here. So you're 1. You need a 2. Okay.
Me too. Alright, my name is Olivia Lake, and I am currently student teaching at Concord Elementary in Troy.
3.
I'm Haley Stanford, and I'm currently at Hamilton High School, and I'll be there for the whole placement.
4.
I'm McKenna Theory. I'm currently teaching at Liberty Elementary, but in like 4 weeks, I'll be switching to their high school.
We don't have a 5. We need a 5. 5. Ooh, and so you'll be able to choose the very next number that's available. 5.
Hi, I'm Claire Farrow. I'm not actually currently student teaching. I'll be doing that in the fall.
So you're the asterisk. Alright, 5. 6.
Okay, hi, I'm Lacey Clark. I'm currently at Independence Elementary. I'm here for, I think, 3 or 4 weeks, then I transferred to Endeavor for a week. Then I transferred to Lakota East High School. I flip-flops with. So my teacher, she does dual quarters, so she does 2 quarters at one, 2 quarters at the other. So I got dropped in the middle. I finish up this quarter at Independence, then I go to her other one for a week. Then I go to homeschool. It's a lot, but it's fun.
It sounds like I'm thinking like a subway map.
Yeah, I'm
To be helpful.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So you were 6.
I am 6.
Now you can be 7, or you can opt to be a later number because we don't have anything after 6.
I could be 7.
Be 7.
I'm McKenna Malcolm. I'm student teaching at Fairfield Compass Elementary, and I'll be there the entire time.
Great. 7. We need a. Oh, now it's a free for all.
I'm Julia Linzel. I am teaching at Ridgeway Elementary in Hamilton for the whole 16 weeks.
Great. So you were 8. Labeled
Yeah.
8, but you're 8. Okay. We need a 9.
I'm Molly Zooks. I'm student teaching 7th grade at Mason Middle School, and then after spring break, I'm at Mason Early Childhood School teaching kindergarten.
Oh, there's 9. We don't have a 10. So we have 9. We did it. So why did y'all laugh at me when I said who wants to be third? Now you didn't laugh at me. You laughed at what I said. Why was that laughable? Why did it evoke some sort of response?
I think we were just kind of like not expecting that. I think we were just expecting to go in the order of 1, 2, 3, or like start there or start there.
Yeah. And you were expecting that because it's only happened once, twice, maybe 1,000 trillion times before, right? And that was the first thing. Oh, that's different. So by not starting at 1, or not starting here and going around, not starting there, or not starting with the A's, or not starting, we start with the Z's and go backwards. Starting at 3, and then we had to figure out when we went to 6, right? And what did it do for your experience in the introductions? Was it just the same old thing, and after you figured out, okay, this is kind of weird, that we're just going to listen, or?
Are you like still talking?
Well, this is this is an open session. You may be the spokesperson if you'd like, or you can deflect to something.
Just it kept our attention, I think, because we weren't expecting who went next.
Is it scary for anybody? Maybe scary is not the right word.
Was it comforting to know your number?
Oh, was it comforting to know your number? Great question.
Good job, Gary.
I'm
done now.
It was comforting to know your number. Why? Why was it comforting to know your number?
Because you know when you're up and what to expect a little bit more. Like when people start bouncing around, it gives me like just a little bit of anxiety.
Yeah, I can see that.
We kind of put the power in our own hands when we were ready to speak, or when we wanted to speak, versus just being like, okay, it's your turn, might not be fully prepared.
When you said you were going to be number 1,
Yeah, because she is.
did you hear the collective sigh and everybody else? Oh, good. Go ahead. Oh, I thought you were moving. Oh, you were just switching.
Oh.
See that?
Need my blue drink, sorry.
Drink that blue drink. I find that exercise to be really fun. And I don't, I do with the students quite often, classes students often. Don't always start with number 3 or who wants to be, and then don't choose one. Choose another number. You get a similar reaction. To me, it's about how do you keep that learning space active? How do you empower people? How do you allow for comfort? And then there is some anxiety, right? But there's also anxiety, at least for me, if, okay, we're going to go around the room and introduce ourselves, and if I'm sitting next to the person saying, we're going to go around the room, and I'm anxious because I don't always want to be number 1. I always want to be first. So there's anxiety-inducing protocols regardless of how you go about it, but if you shift it up, everybody gets to be slightly anxious at different moments, and then it's a little more fair. Not that I like to make anybody anxious, but you spread it out.
One of my favorite questions periodically I used was raise your hand if you're not here. And watch them look around the room, taking attendance, but they could physically be in the room, but not in the room.
No, these are asking questions is really central to being a good educator. Speaking of which, what questions have you brought with you? Yes.
Why did you want to be a professor? Why college?
Why did I want to be a professor? Why college? Well, I had this crazy idea at some point when, so I have to back up before I tell you about the crazy idea. So when I was in high school, I took as many art classes as I could because I loved making things. And I figured I was going to go to college and either study art or study communications. I was actually originally thinking I'd be in broadcasting. But it was the art, it was the making. And then in my third year, junior year, my ceramics professor, and ceramics was the area I was focusing on. My ceramics professor said, I have to go to a meeting. Would you teach the introduction to wheel throwing demo to the beginning ceramics students? I said, sure. Then he left the room and I was doing this demo. And I kind of liked it. And the more I did these demos for him, the more I liked it. And we started talking about, well, after you graduate, you gotta find something else to do because you can't stay here after you graduate necessarily. So I decided to pursue a degree in art education. So I thought I was going to be a K-12 teacher. And I applied to 2 schools, Penn State and Illinois. And they both said, yeah, come on. And I decided to go to Penn State. And there was a moment when I was a master's student at Penn State. I was earning my master's degree and my teaching certification. Talking to one of my professors, her name is Marjorie Wilson. I just thought, this has to be the coolest gig in the world. Because you get to work with people who are interested in teaching art. And you're exploring the ways that we can learn about art and teach art more generally, but also then working with students in very specific ways like this. So I did teach in public schools for a couple of years. But I wanted to be a professor because I could connect with the teaching of art in many ways. I wasn't limited to one school necessarily. If I wanted to do my research or work in an elementary school, I could do that, or high school. If I wanted to work with teachers, in other words, it gave me a little more flexibility that I imagined. But I also like the thinking of art making, and art interpretation, and curriculum. So I thought being a professor gave me all those opportunities. How's that? Got a question? I have more answers if you have more questions.
Ask you another question.
Okay, another question, and we'll spread the questions. Go ahead. Oh, you can ask your.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Why ceramics?
Why ceramics? Well, I was in 11th grade back in the 1900s. And it's true. It's true. It's true. And my best friend, Mark, and one of my 3 brothers, Sean, were both taking a ceramics class. And I thought it was pretty cool. And when I was this will really tell you I went to school in the 1900s. When I was in junior high school, I don't think they had junior high school before, right? They only had middle schools and intermediate schools. When I was in junior high school, my art teacher demonstrated clay. There was some lesson on clay, and I really liked it. But I think it was mostly my best friend Mark and my brother Sean. And in part, I think there's some sibling, not rivalry, but encouragement, and best friend, not rivalry, but encouragement. Like, I can do that. Watch this. But it was also, that was really cool, and I really appreciated this idea that you can take this stuff that comes from, find a river, you can find clay. This stuff that can be really wet and drippy and fall through my hands. You wait a little bit, it gets less drippy, and then it starts to cake up, and you can peel it off, and then you wait a little bit more, it gets a little harder. Wait too long, and then it's a rock, I think. Then you put it in an oven, and it gets really hot, and then it gets really hard. Or you can make it into a bowl, or a plate, or a toilet. Right? All of these things are clay. And at a certain point in that timeline, you can break it, and crumble it, and mix it with water, and start over. The possibilities are crazy with clay. I think that's why. Clay allows so many opportunities and challenges too. Because if it's the right time to do something with the clay, then it's the right time. But if you wait too long, you can't do that process, right? So for me, clay is about time and possibilities. Thanks. All right, 2 good questions. A for the day.
Billy's a ceramicist too.
Question. All right, other questions? Yeah.
So how often, I mean, you're the dean, but how often are you like making? Is there like do you wish you could make more? Are you making do you have like a healthy work to making ratio? Like how often is that happening?
That's a great question. I like how you said healthy ratio. There is a ratio. I don't know that it is as healthy as I'd like it to be. I was hired as dean in January of 2020. And then 7 weeks later, the pandemic happened. Or at least spring break happened for us, and send everybody. So, as dean, I'm not doing studio work at all. I'm doing some writing. When I was interim director of the School of Visual Arts, as Dr. Meekin mentioned before, I was I was making work and writing, but certainly not at the level that I was when I was a professor. That was really central to what I was up to. So I'd say the ratio is less healthy than I like, but I'm making in other ways, I think. We have a 14-year-old daughter who loves Minecraft, and every once in a while I tinker with Minecraft in the building. Have you ever worked in Minecraft? It's architecture. That's sculpture. Right? It's spatial awareness. We're not playing games, we're building worlds. So, yeah, I'd like to make more. There's a project that I did for several years that was, I'll pull up some slides if I can get to them online. Project that I did for a while, actually let me back up. So the materiality for me then moved into this idea of, I should say over time, my relationship with the materiality of clay and art practice moved into this idea of installation, right? And then it moved into this space of performance art. So there's fewer materials I need to be responsible for. I didn't have to put a performance work in the closet or find storage for it, right? But it also allowed me to be provocative and engaged in public ways. So public performance was really important for me. And there was a project I was doing for a while called Double Water Fountains. And my studio for that project is this thing. And it was essentially making photographs. So I was able to work with the healthy balance piece that way. I stopped doing that project. In some ways it was related to becoming dean, and I kind of tied a bow around that for a while. I want to revisit that practice, but not in the same way I was doing it before. I just have to found it. So I'm working on improving my health and my healthy balance. Let's see if I can find this. I don't know, did any of you in preparation for this Google me? It sounds like an inappropriate question to ask.
You have been Googled.
I have. Okay, let's see if we find this. Let's see if this Google double water fountains Carpenter. Oh, good gracious. What do we get? We get these industrial water fountains, which is fine. Then we get this guy. Oh, that's me. Well, let's go back to the video of me. I don't know if the sound works. Luke, can you imagine it does? We can test and see. So one of the things that let's see. I'm doing this rather than going straight into my photographs. Let's see what happens. So in the intro, Dr. Danker said I was at MIT. I was an artist in residence at MIT. During the same year, I was learner in residence at the local elementary school in my neighborhood. And I was doing the same projects with the MIT students as I was doing with the elementary students. Love it. We're all learners. So what happened at MIT was I did a series of lectures and workshops and performances, and they recorded them, and they're all on MIT's OpenCourseware. So you can go there and see what I was up to. Let's see what happens here. So this is the talk where I discussed these double water fountains. Let's see here. Why am I going to this length? Because I'm answering the question about the healthy balance, but also so you can see how I was using the phone. Let's see, play. Most of the time they say, yeah, I'll look at the other photograph. And it's that other photograph that I'll ask them, excuse me, wait a second, back up. Okay, here's what we're doing. So there's the younger version of me. So what I would do is, in public places, walking across campus, perhaps, or through one of these buildings, or in an airport, or a mall, or a grocery store, or any public place. Walk up to someone I've never met before. Hi, my name's Steve, I'm an artist. I'm taking photographs of water fountains with me in the photograph. Would you take my picture? And usually people say, sure, so you give them my phone. And I find a water fountain that's actually a double water fountain, right? One is a certain height, and then one is the ADA height. And I hand the phone to the person. I said, will you take my photo? Make sure that I'm in the photo and both fountains are in the photo. I'm going to drink while you take the photo. So I come over, take a drink, and the person shoots the photo. Right? You have to make that sound. Right? And then what happens when you hand your phone to someone and they take the photo? What happens? What do? You just give the phone back. Say, oh, great, thank you. Oh, that's great. Let's look at that. Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you. And then I say, but do you have time to look at one more photograph? And they say, yeah. And then I show them a photo taken by Elliot Erwitt in 1950. I'll show you. And it's this photograph. And you probably noticed this thing's with me quite often. So when I put this on, and I'm drinking from a water fountain, I kind of look like I could be that guy. And I have that photo saved on my phone in just a strategic place that, oh, we looked at your photo. Oh, just look at this. And I'm talking to someone I've never met before about that photograph. You thought starting with number 3, then number 6, and the number was awkward and anxiety-inducing. How about talking about uncomfortable histories of this country with a total stranger after you've been in this really intimate space of holding their phone? That was the practice, and I would then post these things on Instagram. So you can find over 100 of these on Instagram with comments. But the conversations were brilliant. We had great conversations. Didn't always agree with people. A lot of folks had never seen this Elliot Erwitt photograph. Camera that uses this interesting technology. So then we can show some others. Oh yeah. So how many of you might be coming tonight to the talk? Great. So I'll show other photographs. I'll show some of these works tonight, like this one that was taken in the state capitol building in South Carolina, about 100 yards away from the flagpole that had the Confederate flag. And this was taken maybe 3 or 4 weeks before it was taken down. But then, I mentioned I have a 14-year-old daughter. Well, when I was doing these, she wasn't 14, she was much younger. And she would ask me, why is it that when we're out, you go up to strangers and give them your phone and they take pictures of you? She was interested in taking photos. So I said, you can take a photo of me, but I have to take a photo of you first. She said, okay, so there's I think she was like 5. Taking a drink from a water fountain. So, and she knew I was always taking a drink from the lower one. Oh, now at this point, when I was giving the talk, she was 8, she was 3 or 4 then. And then I said, and then here's her picture of me. She was 3 or 4 and understood I was talking to people I didn't know, taking photographs, having conversations, and knew I was taking a drink from that lower fountain. And I talked to her about why I was having a drink from the lower fountain. But I haven't talked to you all about it. Why do you think I was always drinking from the lower fountain? Knowing that I'm referencing this fountain. Yeah, go ahead.
It's like you're trying to make just a deeper connection and put yourself in that position. Usually when we think of something that's lower, we think of something that's not as important.
And the lower fountain, contemporary fountains, are there for ADA compliance, right? Americans with Disabilities. So that they're accessible. So the whole idea of accessibility is kind of interesting too, right? Who has access to water? And while those fountains are of different heights now, they both look like they're made of the same materials and probably the same degree of cleanliness, but not in the 1950s necessarily. So it's these really complicated conversations that one can have. But a 3 or 4-year-old child, I have a conversation with them at the level that they can have. So this gets back to, am I still making artwork and having a healthy balance? No, but I'd love to get back, and I think this is my way back to doing that. I just have to find a new project. We explored a lot of things with this project. I just need to find a new project. All right, more questions, I have more answers.
I have a thought. It's not really a direct question.
Okay, I won't answer it to you.
Okay. Just thinking about what art can do as far as learning, and being able to process and like gain experience in like a hands-on way, I feel like you retain more. How do you feel like just in our like K through 12 school systems? I feel like a lot of that is being taken out, and we measure kids what they know like on test scores. And art seems to be like the first thing that goes. So within the art classroom, we want to like incorporate, okay, this is a skill that you can gain, that you can apply to real life and figuring things out, and you can use things like math and science, and we work in the environment, so you're obviously incorporating math and science and culture and things like that into it. How, I guess, maybe your perspective or your thoughts on how to incorporate that more in our school systems? I mean, that's kind of like a big thing to try to change all of our systems, and I don't know if maybe working in like a college setting, you feel like you have more access to change that. But how would you, I guess, suggest, or just your thoughts on getting that more in the K through 12 systems? In math, reading, science, like those kind of standards too.
Sure, no, great question. I have several responses, but since you're not asking directly, I won't answer you. No, it's a great question. So, trying to change a system in one fell swoop is really tough. It's like trying to eat a whole pizza in one bite. Typically, it's better to take a slice and then take a bite out of the slice. So, I would say you have this big concept and big goal that you laid out. I think there are many ways to, several things one could do. One would be find a teacher who teaches one of those other subjects you were talking about. Notice I call them other subjects. Actually, for a long time I would call them the other core subjects. And you remember me saying this, right? But yeah, those other core subjects. The ones with the numbers. And find another teacher in your school who teaches one of those other core subjects, who's interested in this idea as well. Partner with them. Start there. Right? There has to be like a display case in your school or bulletin boards in your school. Partner with this teacher again. Start to put the work up with an explanation co-authored by both of you. Not when I say co-authored, I'm not saying an entire book that's there, but a bit of didactic text. Start doing that as practice. That becomes normal. Normalize that. And make sure that it's not the work you're doing in your classroom in service to their subject, that the subject matter is in conversation with each other. I'd say start there. Find an accomplice. Find a sidekick. Find a partner, right? And normalize the behavior. I think that's one. My radical response, and by radical, I'm not talking about like being an extremist. By radical, I mean going to the root of it. Because that word radical is the same root as radish, and radius, and radiate. It means core. It means root. So go to the root. Curricula, state curricula, local curricula, it's the people who make decisions on school boards, people who make decisions on state education boards. We can vote for people. So that's radical, right? Going to the people who make the decisions. We are the people who decide who the people will be to make the decision. So that's radical. Then there's the more direct. I'd say another approach is, well, let me give you some examples. So when I was learner in residence, artist and learner in residence at Easterly Parkway Elementary School, first grade, I worked with the first grade teacher. I was in his classroom all day on Friday, every single Friday that I could be there, for the whole day. And he gave me 60 minutes, sometimes 90 minutes out of the day to do whatever I wanted to do. But the rest of the time I was with him. I was on the floor reading books and doing this and doing that. But I learned what his curriculum was. And I suggested ways that he might modify what he was doing. Kind of infiltrate. I'm not saying you leave your room and go to the whoever this other partner is, but you could do that. Let me tell you some of the things we did. Every classroom had a tablet. They weren't iPads, they were some other company's tablets. And they had cameras and they had video editing equipment on them and filters for photographs. I showed remember these are first graders. I showed them Andy Warhol's films, or I found these online. They essentially did a series of audition tapes. Have you ever seen these? With different people who were members of the Factory or other famous people at that time. And there were these black and white films, real film back then. And it was, like 3 or 4 minutes long, and people would pose, and there was some silent films. But I showed these different, and it didn't matter who these people were. Some were models and rock stars. And these students were fascinated by black and white imagery. They were fascinated by these people just kind of moving or posing for a little while, but the film is still rolling, but they're kind of posing and moving slowly. And I said, "You think you can make one of those?" They said, "Yeah." I said, "But the tablet is a yes." I said, "Okay. Find a partner and make a audition." We did, and then put it through the black and white filter. So they were learning how to use the technology, which is part of the science and technology curriculum. Andy Warhol helped us get there. Right? And then from there, he said, before there were these phones and tablets, people had to use other technologies. There's this technology called a camera. And we use this word, shooting photographs. Where does that come from? It comes from, there's a chromophotographic rifle. The first cameras that shot motion looked like a rifle, and would shoot pictures. And, that's cool use of words. And then we looked at zoetropes. This circular device that has a series of 8 or 10 or 12 or 50 still images that over time move a little bit, and then if you put it inside the circle thing, you spin it, and you look through the little hole, it looks like it's moving. We made those. We learned about film and motion and time. The time and motion are in the science group. We also made pinhole cameras without film. We didn't make the little pinhole cameras with Quaker oat boxes. We actually made some of those. Because I'm crazy. I asked the other teachers and I asked the kids to take notes home for the parents, can you bring in cardboard boxes and stuff? And they would bring in boxes that we made pinhole cameras this size. And you can make a pinhole camera that has wax paper as the medium on which the image is projected. And we set them up against the window, and so there's more science. So there's a lot of science connection, right? But I'm not using the word science. We're just making our looking at photographs. The thing is, the image that you see is upside down. They didn't understand why it was upside down. Oh, and then we had to talk about how eyes work. Then we had to talk about the camera obscura. Remember this from our history class? Camera? Well, then they wanted to make a camera obscura. So guess what we did? We made a camera obscura. In the middle of the first grade class, we made this big box house. It was completely pitch black, dark inside, and we poked a little hole in the one side. And we could get 3 little kids and Steve inside this box. And they brought in their white piece of paper and they held it up, and then I opened the little thing, and they saw outside, because we had it pointed at the window that looked out at the playground. We were watching your friends play outside in color, upside down. You can do stuff like that, or you can do boring stuff. It's really your choice. How's that for an answer? Yeah, good question. Any more questions? Yes?
Has anyone, sorry for my voice. Has anyone or have you ever had a saying that you tell yourself to achieve what you have achieved and will achieve? Just like a motivation thing? Motto.
A motto.
Affirmation.
Affirmation. You know what? I don't know that I do, but here's the closest I can get to this. So my answer is no.
Okay.
But let me tell you something I say often. That is something I've been saying to our college for the past 4 years. It's so there's a writer, a person who studies leadership. His name is Simon Sinek. Do you know his work? S-I-N-A-K, Simon Sinek. And he promotes this idea of why. Start with why. Start with your why. And so it's sort of in line with his notion of start with why. It's like, why are you doing what you do? It's not, why are you an art teacher? It's why, what's your why in the world that you just happen to do as an art teacher or as an artist or as a professor, as a whatever. So my why that I have translated for the college is to question answers and assumptions in order to make possibilities possible. I think my why is to question the answers that we're given, and to question assumptions, question constructs, not just to question them and be really upset and frustrated, but question them in order to make what it might be possible, to make that possibility possible, to go forward. It's not a mantra, no, it's not an affirmation, but it is something I say often, and I think embedded in it is, I'm having a day, it's hard to get out of bed, today we gotta go make some possibilities possible. Right. Today I got some assumptions that need to be questioned. I'm gonna find some assumptions that's just waiting for questions. How's that?
You said something yesterday that I wrote down.
Oh no, see? I think our time is up.
That's great, because, and this is very applicable to student teaching, I think, too. You said, be careful what you teach, someone will learn it.
That's good.
What does that say about like choices that you're making all the time? That's the one thing I wrote down.
That's something I've said for a while too. But yeah, be careful what you teach, someone will learn. Right? It's kind of a play on be careful what you wish for. What you teach, someone will learn. Yeah.
So this is kind of going off of what you were talking about, and I know that you talked about your practices as a maker and as an educator changing. But how do you find either yourself or other people in the field changing just to kind of stay current with events just over time? Just changing practices.
That's a good question. You know, right, I'm going to bring questions. Wow, the changing piece is really an interesting one because there are folks that don't really want to change things or embrace change. And change isn't always a 180-degree shift or even a 45-degree shift. Sometimes change is like a degree and a half over a long period of time.
Should I turn my hand to what I'm like in my shirt?
So I think I have three thoughts here. One, the first one that comes to mind is there's a journal in our field published through NAEA, National Art Education Association, called Art Education. And the editors of that journal typically maybe have had a 3-year term. So we now have a new editor, Michelle Bateman-Trias. The previous editor, Ami Kantawala, over her 3 years, she really followed a few other editors who were starting more than many of the previous editors to reflect in the content of the journal, in the articles that they were accepting, social issues, social conversations that speak to what you were talking about, the integration of disciplines or reestablishing those relationships or taking up the challenges that we might encounter as teachers generally that happen to play out within and through visual art. And what Ami was doing was being really explicit about the DEI and the DEIB conversations, about Black Lives Matter, about gender issues, right? All being really direct about it. I don't think I'm talking at a school when I say that not everybody in the field embraced what she was doing, but she kept doing it. And her last issue as an editor, the cover of that journal had the cover of all of the 18 journals that she had published. And you open it up and her editorial essentially maps each of those issues to the diversity of the DEIB goals of the association. She essentially said, look, exactly what I'm talking about, all of the changes, the social and cultural shifts that we could be making and should be making are supported by what this association says we need to do. So for some people, a change is real immediate. Yeah, we're going to go this way. For other people, that change is slower and more challenging. So one way to do it is to be public, like on the list. 2 is to have conversations in your university classrooms with your professors, with colleagues and peers. So those conversations, that's the second part, is to be part of and have those conversations. But a third is to continue to continue your professional development. Go to conferences. I was in a session yesterday at the pre-service conference. It was the interview one. It was the interview.
Cassie and Jacqueline.
Yes.
That one.
Yeah, so in that one, they said, look, one of the questions you might encounter is, so what are you reading these days? What book are you reading? So if you're not reading a book regularly, I mean, you don't have to read the same book over and over again, but the idea is that in an interview, you might be asked this question, so be prepared by reading a book. And if you're going to be prepare for that question, read a book about teaching, pedagogy, or curriculum, or philosophy, or something that might have a relationship to, or social issues. So just stay active and current and thoughtful is my third response. Yeah, not everybody wants to shift and change. I'm not sure every shift and change is necessary either. Right? So it's about working through what that means. But if we're not aware of conversations and where directions could be going, you might not be part of the conversation at all and helping it to go in a direction that's how's that?
That's great.
Check on the food.
Oh, okay.
But maybe we have time for one more question and then we'll take a picture together and then we'll figure out the food subscription.
Yes.
What's the story behind your hat?
The story behind my hat.
I thought about the hat this morning.
You did.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I tell students, I say, if you see a hat like this on campus, I'm probably under it. Story of the hat, I think there are multiple elements to the story of the hat. First, this is fun. First started wearing the hat when I was in college. I don't know why this happened, but some people, I think it was my buddies, trying to play a joke on me, but in a genuinely nice way. I got picked to be on the homecoming court. Right? So that meant that I had to parade with people and be seen in public, and a couple of my friends and I said, all right, you gotta look better than you usually do. This is not good. So we went to the next town. I was an undergraduate at Slippery Rock University, really small college, university in a remote part of Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania. So we went to the next town to the store, and we bought a blazer, and I bought a tie, and somebody said, you need a hat. You need a hat. That'll do it. So I started wearing this hat. So I started wearing a hat then, kind of as a, it was pretty good. So I then thought, okay, I'll wear this hat. And then, the more I was studying in art education, and you can kind of see where some of this thinking went with the water fountain work, I remembered that my grandfather used to wear hats like this. And a lot of the photographs that I would see of the 1960s, people holding signs and protesting, they were wearing hats like this. So it was a moment where I said, okay, the hat is now referencing that time. And me thinking, well, there was a time that I wouldn't have been able to be a student on the campus where I'm teaching. I wouldn't have been able to be a professor or even dean on that campus. So this is me wearing the history and respect and saying thank you. I talked yesterday, I referenced Nellie
Walker Craig.
Thank you. Nellie Walker Craig, and who was the first African American student here in Miami, 1905 is when she graduated. At Penn State, Calvin Waller, first man, African American man to graduate from Penn State in 1905. And Bunton, Harriet Bunton was the first African American woman at Penn State. She was there a bit earlier. All that is to say, this hat is also symbolic for me to say, okay, without having folks before me, I wouldn't be here, so there's an honor there. There's another thing that I'll mention, but maybe I'm not really going to say this if the cameras are on. I guess it's recorded. There was this guy who, when I was a kid, I really admired for his entertainment skills, and it's Michael Jackson. And so I like fedoras for that reason, but also, I mean, Frank Sinatra used to wear hats like this, but a lot of folks in the 50s and 60s jazz space too would wear hats like this. I think they're kind of fun. I think they're fun. So I have 15 hats. Yeah. So that's the story of the hat. Started out as a homecoming. Does that work?
Yeah, thanks.
The lunches are here.
The lunch is here. Okay. I think that we can take a picture, but because I know Claire needs to leave, and we want these pictures to send us.
Oh, here's a preview from
Wait, hold that up. Hold on.
How's that?
Definitely need that.
Do you have a favorite? That looks like an oil
It looks like what?
painting. An oil painting.
Oh, that's funny. Maybe that's where I'm gonna find helmets. Photos with hats as oil paintings. Do I have a favorite? I don't. I think my favorite hat is the one I just bought recently. Whatever, you know, my newest hat. I buy hats like every few months or so. Maybe every 6 months. So whatever the newest hat is, probably my favorite. Anyway, there you go. Well, I'm just deeply grateful to Doctors Meakin and Danker for inviting me and being brave enough to invite you to endure my crazy ideas and thoughts. No, in all seriousness, I'm really grateful for you all inviting me to spend time with you. What you're up to is so important. It's so important. There are ways to learn about all subjects that you know we tend to privilege, but I like the ones where we get to make stuff and use symbols and perform and convey ideas in ways that numbers and words don't always allow us to do. And you all are right there doing it. You know how beautiful and amazing and magical it is when you're in a room with somebody and the very first time they see that you take yellow, you take some blue, paint, and you do this, and green shows up. I mean, the first time somebody sees it, you get to be there the first time they do all sorts of things through the arts. It's powerful. So be careful what you teach, somebody's going to learn. And then you're going to do great. You take it off?
Yeah, I have class.
Oh, okay. All right. Have a good class.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, we'll get you your order. We have all of them written down. But Olivia just reminded us that there's this really cool like balloon thing downstairs right now with red and black, and
Nice.
y'all saw it. So maybe we can do our picture there.
Let's do it.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do our picture. We'll come back here and eat, and then. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Carpenter.